There's a saying in life, nobody fights like family. Not only is this true of my family, I will never forget that time my grandma hit my uncle with a Canadian destroyer one Christmas, but it's also very true in wrestling. The sport of kings has seen many examples of relatives, blood or otherwise, going at it in the ring. For this list, we are looking at people who are genuinely related, rather than any kayfabe relationships. So no Billy versus Bart on this one. Sorry guys. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 best family versus family matches in wrestling history. Join us! Number 10, Eddie Guerrero versus Chavo Guerrero on SmackDown. At the 2004 Royal Rumble, the feud between Eddie Guerrero and his nephew Chavo came to a disappointing end. Though the action was customarily good, the two men were only allotted a paltry 8 minutes for their big blow-off, a consequence of the hour-long Rumble match and Triple H and Shawn Michaels needing extra time for their last man standing bout. Thankfully for Los Guerreros, they were able to run it back on SmackDown almost a month later. This time, Latino Heat was defending his newly won WWE title, with Kurt Angle acting as special guest referee. Given twice the time on television than they were on pay-per-view, Eddie and Chavo, who had won the Cruiserweight title on the same night as his uncle's triumph, put on an engaging contest that demonstrated their chemistry as tag partners extended to being opponents. One mark against it is the lack of a decisive finish, as the Olympic hero turned on Eddie and attacked him, resulting in a no contest. Up until that point, however, the wrestling was as smooth as silk, even if there was a bit of an absence of drama regarding a potential title change. Number 9, Rey Mysterio versus Dominik Mysterio at WrestleMania 39. Though he's the kayfabe son of Eddie Guerrero, Dominik Mysterio is the real-life biological child of Rey Mysterio, allegedly. The two were inseparable during Dom's first couple of years in the promotion. At WrestleMania Backlash 2021, the Mysterios won the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, becoming the only father and son duo in WWE history to hold tag gold together. Well, that is until Shane McMahon inevitably wins the belts with one of his kids, obviously. Dirty Dom turned his back on his dear old dad when he decided that he'd much rather hang out with a sexy goth lady instead, and who can really blame him? Look at her. The younger Mysterio joined the Judgment Day and quickly became one of the most hated heels in professional wrestling, setting up a match with his pops at WrestleMania 39. Though many argued that Rey should have lost to his son, the action was still crisp, the emotions were still high, and Bad Bunny's run in at the end was still a memorable moment. If only the whole thing hadn't been sponsored by a bloody cereal. Number 8, Rey Fenix versus Pentagon Jr. on AEW Dynamite. The Lucha Brothers are possibly the third best sibling tag team in AEW right now, just behind the Young Bucks and the Gun Club. I'm kidding. Young Bucks aren't even that good. Rey Fenix and Pentagon have been in All Elite Wrestling since day one. Their battles with the Young Bucks were a key part in the pre-Dynamite days of the promotion, and they've sporadically reappeared to wage war with their great rivals a few more times over the years. On the October 21st, 2020 episode of Dynamite, Fenix and Penta squared off against each other in the first round of the World Championship Eliminator Tournament. As you would expect from two of the most gifted luchadors on the planet, the action in this one was breathtaking. The two men worked seamlessly together, perhaps because they literally share the same DNA, and Fenix scored an upset win over his more established brother to advance. Unfortunately, an injury took him out of the running, and so Penta advanced to the next round in his place. So did he win his match in honor of his brother? Nope, he lost. Loser. Number 7, the British Bulldog versus Owen Hart on Raw. We've tried not to include the same families multiple times on this list, but it's kind of impossible to do that with the Harts. I mean, there are hundreds of them. Trying to send out Christmas cards every year must be a nightmare. Our first visit to Stu and Helen's massive litter also features a man who married into the Canadian wrestling dynasty. Davey Boy Smith, aka the British Bulldog, tied the knot with Diana Hart in 1984. This move vastly increased the number of people he was related to, which included his new brother-in-law, Owen Hart. The two would find great success as a duo in the 90s, reigning as tag team champions for 246 days. During this time, they would also meet in the finals of a tournament to crown the first ever European champion. Held in Germany, this match was a technical masterpiece as the non-blood relatives put their considerable combined skill to the test. After one of the best matches in Raw history, Davey Boy pinned the Rocket to win the inaugural belt for Queen and Country. Just thinking about it brings a tear to my little British eye. Number 6, Jeff Hardy versus Matt Hardy, the final deletion. Matt Hardy and his baby brother Jeff had a few matches against each other in WWE, and unfortunately, more often than not, they weren't that great. Their match at Vengeance 2001 underwhelmed, as did their Extreme Rules bout at WrestleMania 25. You know, the one that came about because Matt burnt Jeff's house down and killed his dog. In storyline, I hasten to add, please don't harass Matt on Twitter. The only really good WWE encounter between the two was an I Quit match at Backlash, but for their true magnum opus, we need to go to Impact. One day in 2016, Matt woke up and decided that he was actually the human vessel for an ancient spirit, as you do. This broken character went after Jeff, aka Brother Nero, leading to the legendary final deletion match on the July 5th episode of Impact. This was a cinematic match before cinematic matches were in vogue, as the Hardys shot each other with fireworks, jumped out of trees, and set each other on fire. It wasn't to everyone's taste, just ask Sam Driver, but those who liked it loved it, and it helped put both men's names back on the map. Number 5, Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso at Hell in a Cell 2020. Roman Reigns has faced off many times against his cousins the Usos, even before the bloodline was ever a thing. As a member of the Shield, Reigns battled Jimmy and Jey in various tag team matches, including for the championship belts at Money in the Bank 2013. Fast forward 10 years to the epic Civil War match at the same event, where Reigns got pinned for the first time in over 3 years. Take that, Baron Corbin. The match we are interested in happened right at the start of Reigns' run as Tribal Chief. After defeating him at Clash of Champions, the head of the table once again put his Universal Championship on the line against Jey in an I Quit Hell in a Cell match. After half an hour of physical and psychological warfare, the dastardly champion finally made his cousin give up by choking out Jimmy with a guillotine. This was a fantastic ending to a fantastic match, proving just how far Roman was willing to go to keep his mitts on the belt. Number 4, the British Bulldog versus Bret Hart at SummerSlam 1992. At SummerSlam 1992, the British Bulldog was put in a main event match for the Intercontinental Championship in front of a rabid UK crowd. To get through his high-pressure scenario, Davey Boy turned to another of his 48 brothers-in-law, reigning IC champion Bret the Hitman Hart. It's been said many times that this is one of the greatest matches in any number of different categories. Greatest Intercontinental Championship matches, greatest SummerSlam matches, greatest pay-per-view main events, greatest matches where one participant was recovering from a very heavy night out the night before. Despite his semi-inebriated state, the Bulldog reversed a sunset flip to pin Hart's shoulders down to the mat to score the 1-2-3. The fans in London erupted when their inverted commas hometown hero picked up the victory, ending this huge night on the highest of highs. Bret could famously have a great match with just about anybody, but the fact that he chose this night to deliver one of his best performances really shows just how powerful family can be. Number 3, Shane McMahon versus Vince McMahon at WrestleMania X7. Never mind all that lovey-dovey stuff I just said about family, let's talk about the time a son knocked 7 bells of grapefruit juice out of his old man. 22 years before the Mysterios had their father versus son match, another famous wrestling family took turns duking it out. Vince McMahon had gone mad, well, even madder than usual, and was abusing his power even more egregiously than he typically did. He had placed his wife Linda into a medical coma, which allowed him to cavort freely with his new mistress, Trish Stratus. Understandably, this annoyed his son Shane, so the two decided to settle it in the ring, like all good families do. Was this a technical masterpiece? Absolutely not. Both men had the natural wrestling ability of two blind squirrels. But was this one of the most entertaining soap opera matches in WrestleMania history? You bet your sweet tushy it was. I won't run through the highlights here because that'll take all day, but I highly recommend you seek this one out if somehow you haven't already seen it. If only to see Linda McMahon get a bloody Road Warrior pop, if nothing else. Number 2, Cody versus Dustin Rhodes at Double or Nothing 2019. AEW's first pay-per-view, Double or Nothing, had something for everyone. The Casino Battle Royale was a bit of silly fun. The Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers was out-and-out carnage, and for those who like their wrestling full of emotion, there was the Battle of the Rhodes Boys. When Dustin and Cody Rhodes were in WWE as Goldust and Stardust respectively, they tried to have a brother versus brother match at Fastlane 2015. Unfortunately, it went so badly that Cody left the company 1 year later. brother. Okay, so that wasn't the exact reason, but the match still wasn't very good and apparently helped cancel a planned WrestleMania rematch. 4 years on, they decided to have a do-over, and what a do-over it was. The half-brothers put on one of the most intense story-driven matches of recent times. Cody playing the cocky youngster, whilst Dustin served as the wily veteran who refused to be put down. After over 20 minutes of bloody action, Cody finally pinned his brother as the MGM Grand rose to their feet in appreciation. And then came the famous moment where Cody asked Dustin to team with him because he didn't need a partner, but he did need a brother. Somebody get me a tissue. Number 1, Owen Hart versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 10. Our third and final check-in on the Hart family is the only one to feature 2 of Stu and Helen's 8 sons. The story of Owen versus Bret began with even more Hart kids as they teamed up with brothers Bruce and Keith at Survivor Series 1993. After Bret accidentally caused Owen to be the only one of his brothers eliminated, things started getting frosty. At Royal Rumble 1994, Owen kicked Bret's leg out of his leg, and the match was made for WrestleMania 10, brother versus brother for the first time ever. Both men were famously sound in-ring performers, and putting them together with a highly charged story behind them only galvanized them further. This opening contest is still regarded as one of the best Mania matches of all time, especially when you consider the shocking moment when Owen pinned his far more accomplished brother. This is a textbook example of a real-life relationship being used to further a scripted feud. The only way this could have been any better was if it led to a Hart family 8-way somewhere down the line. What, you're telling me you didn't want to see Ross versus Wayne? Liars.